paperwork, but I could show you what the paperwork would look like in conversation so you don't have to go through it. But I like having them fill out this because this is what goes in my file. I have gotten more accounts, just an information. It has the rates on it. Whether you make it up on your own or not, I just like it because it has the rate, so it's quick for me to look at. I can reference it. I can do the age banding by saying, hey, could you point to an age band for me so I don't have to make them announce it out front. Also, women sometimes aren't comfortable giving their age to me, but they don't mind going in a range.
Can you email that to Bonnie? So she can,
this is a Washington one. It will mean nothing to you, but
well, no, just,
the template.
So we can have a visual and we can make our own.
If you want. And remember, everything I'm talking about here is just Jody's personal preference and how I like doing it. And things that I gathered while coming up.
Because we really individualize our rate sheets for
each account.
Each company. To have to do an interest form mixed with a rate sheet,
because you guys do interest forms, and see, I never do interest forms because I don't want to do group. So to me, this is essentially.
Today, Heather had her interest forms there.
Right.
Used it kind of like
we had
this.
price sheets and
give me your information so I can get my system.
We just used the price sheet in front of them and then pulled the interest form.
And even if you have it on the back, the reason for me putting the information on the top, all of that is the applicant information on the top of a form, because there's nothing worse than when I get to the S&G to be like, okay, so Heather, and how do I spell your last C? How do I spell that? And I'm going through and I'm like, okay, is that an apartment? Is that a road? Is that an avenue? It just bogs you down so much. Whereas if it's on paper, and I have them do all my busy work. So that's why I do SRAs and everything. And if I didn't have this, I could still have them do an SRA, and the SRA gives me the same information for the statement. So once she finishes this, or while she's filling it out, I'm filling out the PDA. I'm filling out the PDA, I'm marking up the SRA, why she filled this out. So then when she's done, I say, great, could you also fill out everything that you see is highlighted? It's just her name and address again, name and address and sign. While she's doing that, I pretty much have her applicant information entered into the S&G, so now all we have is underwriting questions. So to me, when I talk about this with new agents, I say it has to be a dance. I said it's very well choreographed, and people say, well, how can you do one-on-ones first time inside of 15 to 20 minutes? I say, well, I tell the employer it'll take 15 to 20 minutes per person on the average. Some people may take a little bit longer. A lot of people may take a lot less. So on the average for your company, it's going to take about 15 to 20 minutes per person if you're budgeting that time out. But if somebody has a lot of questions or they're participating in a lot of programs, I don't want to cut them short because I'm worried about a time. That's why I like a list of employees. I don't like 20-minute increments. Do not send people in on me every 20 minutes. That sucks. Because then if somebody goes to 22, now I'm eating into somebody else's time, or if somebody goes 8, now you're eating into my 12 minutes that I could have been on to the next person and on to my next account after this if that's what it's going to be. So I like the list of employees. Let me get the next person. If Heather participated, guess who gets to go get my next person? Sam. If Heather doesn't participate, I go back out to Mary up front and say, hey, I think Sam's next on my list. Is he available to come on in? So all those things are just one-on-one techniques and things that I'm sure we all use.
The tagging system is what I use a lot. When I'm done with this person, they go get the next person.
If they've participated. And then everybody leaves with a packet. So you can't tell who, nobody walks out of here with a waiver form.
We always give them an I've applied sticker.
I would do that with the exception that,
You're joking about that.
so you're joking? Oh, I was like, well, I've seen the stickers that said I got my Aflac. There were stickers that have those.
Yeah, there is one.
We put it on sale this morning.
I was like, with the exception, my only fear of people that don't have a sticker now.
I'm not sure why they have those stickers.
What was my response to putting that sticker on?
I didn't even have it on yet before it went, no, or something.
Doesn't it say I've applied?
Sticker phobia.
I don't know why you've seen those stickers.
Yeah, no, I have my Aflac. Or
no, it says I've applied, right? As a duck.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
So essentially, my one-on-one is the biggest concept to me is it's also very assumptive. And through the course of the conversation at the very beginning, I try to find out a lot about her, even though I screwed up her son's age. I want to find a lot so I can really personalize it as I go through. And as I'm going through a product, I am literally, that's the biggest part to me, is I create 3 stacks. Somehow, some way, there's going to be 3 stacks when we're done. There's going to be the ones you're going to take, because I'm saying these are the ones that make the most sense for me and you. There's the one that I'm going to throw under the bus and blow out, so you know that I'm not here to try to sell you everything under the sun, nor do I want to, because we lose those 3 months later. So I want to find the one that I just don't think makes the most sense, with a lot of disclaimers of you tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking based on what you've given me, this one probably doesn't make the most sense right now. But the one I'm really torn about is this 3rd one. Talk to me about that one. What do you want to do? And more often than not, I find I will get these 2, whether I add the 3rd or not add the 3rd, that's the one they get to choose on. And so they still feel like they have ownership. They say a product, what you will never hear me say is, okay, well, what do you think? What do you want? How's it sound? Any of them look good to you? That's when you don't close on the spot. That's when you don't close ever, and they take it back. Most of the time, you can guide people to the decision if you've had a very interactive, consultative presentation with them, and you guide them to the ones that you think make the most sense.
Can you rephrase that? You tell me what you think of. What was the question?
The third, there's the stack that says, and sometimes the stack could just be one. I mean, if I'm sitting with Sam, you know, Sam's single guy, I'm probably leaning towards the accident. Unless he honed in on cancer or something like that, that might be my option. I'm not sure. It would depend.
And I'm always.
I love cancer, but
and I do too. That's my third one though. I'm always talking disability being the most important, possibly being the most important.
Yeah, and I'm not big on it.
Ours are, I know. I sell a lot of disability.
And I like it. It's fine. Being that all of our policies are disability related, all of them pay in very similar standpoint. And just to tell you the difference, I actually did a study, and if you ever look at it, I studied out from a direct standpoint is why I did it, because so often people say, can I get disability direct? Right. And we're like, well, no, and I'm really trying to condition people to, yes, absolutely, all of our policies are disability related, and let me show you why in many cases it'll even be better. Yeah. Particularly that of an SB or small business owner.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it took just taking strictly the upfront, a hospital protector and an accident plan. Take those two from a direct with the premium. Take a person on a regular standalone disability that makes $40-something thousand a year, 43. Payroll rate. It was actually less expensive to buy these two direct than it was the one plan to cover them at their eligible units. Taking nothing more than a 3-day injury or a 2-day injury and a 5-day injury. I think I took both ranges. One took somewhere around 43 days of a disability before just that. Not even specific sum, nothing that I couldn't project. Just 3 days, what can I guarantee? I can guarantee daily benefit, initial hospitalization, and then on the hospital protector, because it's front loaded, I can guarantee the $1,200 or $1,800 there. That combined, it took almost 35, 40 days, and I have it on my computer somewhere, before the disability for a payroll person, they would have been out for 34, 40 days before it would have broken even, before we even got into specific sum. You got into 5 days, it took 62. So when I put that out there, it shows you that, especially for a small business owner that isn't going to miss 62 days of work when it's just them and it's a sole proprietorship. They're wondering, when they say, I want disability, what do you want? What are you asking me for? I want cash. I want cash if I can't come to work. Great, I got that for you. So for me, I like disability because it's a buzzword that people like. If it comes down to a budget of 3 plans over here or the disability one, I'm kind of a coin toss. I'm not married to it either way. I like disability. I think it's a great staple, but I'm not married to it having to be part of my mix. Accident, unfortunately, I do, and I'm not proud of that. It has a 2-year persistency rating, but disability is only about 6 as far as persistency rating. Once you get to cancer and you get to hospital intensive care and critical care, which I love. I didn't bring it in today because I didn't want 5 plans to be shown on camera. I typically do either or. So when I ask that question, do you have heart disease or cancer? Whichever way she goes down that road, where she went strong on cancer, I'm going cancer. If she just said more heart disease, I'm going CCR. I'm not even talking about the cancer. But one or the other, typically someone's going to approach it, and I love that critical care. That's my favorite plan, and it took me 6 months to learn it, and you didn't get away from me. If you were under the age of 36, you did not get away from my table without buying that $2.35. Now that was 9 years ago. $2.35 a week, you're buying this plan. You're not leaving. If you don't want it, you can cancel it next year. You're buying it now because next year your age is going to jump.
Now, do you ever talk about the cancer being free for the kids? Because you didn't mention that, because she has a 9-year-old, and you didn't bring that up.
I didn't bring it up. The downside of the cancer is I'm not used to presenting this new one with the little flyer in the middle, and I'm so screwed on it. Like if I had grabbed Max Difference, you'd actually see my cancer presentation. I was having to go off memory, and I haven't shown a cancer plan in 5 months. So I'm going off memory, and it's not in the same order. I need to practice it, and I just didn't have time today to get that part down. But whether I talk about it being free for the kids, possibly.
If she was wavering against it.
Yeah.
Say, do you understand that it's...
I guess my read on it, I wasn't going to have a problem selling her the cancer plan with what I did, based on her history.
You wouldn't have a problem selling anything.
Oh, please. No, but less is more on that. She was done. Given her history, given everything else, I'm reading the person. And that to me is more important in an EE than anything else. Read the person. If the person is not interested in the plan, shut the hell up and move on to the next plan. Yeah. Don't continue to force feed a product down someone's throat that doesn't fit them, because you're just wasting your time. You're better off sabotaging that thing, throw it under the bus, so they know that you gain their confidence now as a consultant and not as a salesperson, pitch person that wants to sell them all 4 plans.
You keep doing that, you're going to turn them off.
Exactly.
Right,
Yeah.
right. They're losing
Yeah.
you. Get to read them, get them engaged. And if you've lost them, if it wasn't there, and I wasn't feeling it on Hospital Protector because she didn't fit the profile. That's why I asked some of those things.
Right.
They maybe go in the family, so that was going to go in my option pile. And when we got there, I was going to come back to some of those conversations if need be, but I was going to see where we finished on the 4 plans.
Just the way you talked about, like when you brought up the panel of experts, you made it emotional because when you said it, you said you get in front of them and you decide how are we going to attack this.
Everything about
that
my
phrase.
cancer plan is that. Very, very good observation, much like you got on the first. The cancer plan for me, it's so much in there. You can't show everything. You will lose people. It's got to be a story. You've got to touch them emotionally. You've got to walk them through the process on why is this plan going to be important for me. And that's exactly it. I've walked through the start of the initial diagnosis, the building benefit, the second opinion. I mean, the very first statement. First thing, you're going to receive 5,000 or 6,000, depending on what level we are. Everything stops. We don't want you worrying about work. We want you worrying about how do I get better. And the best part, you're not going to have to worry about how am I going to afford this. Here's $6,000. Go get it fixed. Those are the statements that say, wow, okay, I get it. And I haven't even, this plan hadn't started yet. And so you're right on the emotion and invoking it. But the anti-nausea, certainly trying to evoke the emotion. The bone marrow transplant. The one I doubled back for experimental treatment, but that's because I was going off memory. Normally that would have already happened beforehand. So yeah, my cancer plan, because then I just say, and I haven't even started, and there's transportation, there's this, much like you saw with the accident. Now, once I got you there, I'm just going to overload you with just saying a lot of the other things that are on the plan, because you don't need to know the dollar amounts. It's become mush at this point. And I've sold you on the need and the emotion of it more than I have. You're not going to buy an accident plan because it pays you 120. You're going to buy the accident plan because it pays more than that for the copay. It takes care of some of the time, and this is cash that you get to use for the groceries. That you saw me kept referring back to that because it's not the 120 that gets you to buy it. It's the overwhelming aspect of everything that it does pay.
Well, what I really liked about the cancer presentation is just, and I don't know if you did it intentionally, you probably did.
Maybe.
But
tell me, I'll tell you.
Rather than just, a lot of us I know just watching different presentations and stuff will list the things that it pays, and you can kind of connect it some here and there, but just kind of listing out it pays this and this, and then when this happens it pays this. But the way you did it, you could really almost even take it further and almost just tell a story of this is what you're going to go through when you get cancer.
That's the way
and
I
just
saw
go
it.
walk through the story, and this is how we're paying you as it goes.
Because that's how I think the plan is important, and that's why I start with initial diagnosis. I start with second opinion. I start with the National Cancer Institute. Now we have a strategy. Now we have a plan. Now let's go attack it. We're going to pay you $300 a day you spend in the hospital, and if you stay over 31 days, we're going to push forward. Because we're not the kind of company that's going to pull back. Because if you stay 31 consecutive days, another one that I do a lot in there that I just didn't have in front of me was hospice. It's $1,000. And I talk about that. I say, hey, we're going to give you $1,000 for hospice. You know why we do that? Because sometimes it's awfully competitive to get into the hospice that you want. And if we're at that point, it's late stage. We want to make sure that whomever we're taking care of gets to get into the hospice that they want and their family feels is right for them. And a lot of times there's a big down payment that has to be made. Well, here's $1,000, go make that down payment. After that it's $50 a day, but typically by the time we get to hospice, that's not your greatest concern, is can we get into the one we want. It's all about emotion to me. Whether it's the ER or whether it's this, people buy on logic at some point, they buy on emotion now. I want them to buy now because I believe in the product and I believe confidently in what it's going to do, and I don't want them to wait 2 days, 3 days until their emotion has gone down exponentially. So no, that wasn't just for today. That's how I sell a cancer plan by far, is walking them through the process. Anything else?